Peace and love, you beautiful wonders of the spiritual level of being. Nathan here from a spiritual level of being, and you have a spiritual level of being. And today I want to discuss morality, the concept of good and evil. Now, you cannot truly be a good person, have morality, be considered moral, to understand religion, to understand philosophy, to understand spirituality, unless you are able to look at the savagery of nature and people in the face and transcend. Now, many spiritual teachers, even philosophers, will deny the atrocities that take place in nature and society. Now, our early ancestors witnessed these events. They evolved through it, not just physically, but also mentally. This has also impacted our psyche in the modern era. Now, without observing the darkness, you cannot truly appreciate the good, the light and goodness. Now, our ancestors, they witnessed the atrocities in nature. They witnessed bad behavior being rewarded through the animal kingdom. They witnessed revenge through the animal kingdom. They witnessed savage tactics of hunting. Now, in turn, animals eating other animals alive, such as the African wild dog. Humans have also taken on this behavior. Monkey see, monkey do. So I'm going to show you some videos that will show you that these behaviors are not unique from the animal kingdom. African wild dog is one of the most successful and brutal predators in the world. Oftentimes it won't even kill its prey, it will eat it alive, sometimes leaving it for the lions and hyenas, as they have to be quick before the lions and hyenas get there. Now, this here, our ancient ancestors would have evolved and seen all this sort of impact of bad behavior being rewarded. Lioness killed a puppy of an African dog. The African dogs hunted down this lioness and killed it. This is also a form of revenge. This lioness, while it was alive, was attacked by these wild dogs for killing one of their puppies. So our ancestors would have also witnessed these events. They would have taken notice of our feelings, and monkey see, monkey do. They would have also seen the animals do it and would have also copied. Now, the animals that are killed by these African wild dogs, they're gone through a form of torture. Now, they're getting ripped apart alive. Now, the gazelle didn't choose to be born into this world. It didn't choose to go through this suffering. So we had the Gnostics that came to this concept: how can a good God create this world full of suffering and what they considered evil? Now, this is why they regarded the compassion, the inner goodness, as our divine spark, as the soul within us. Now, humans can comprehend what is right and what is wrong. We are the first to be able to do so. So we have this unique consciousness. Now, to the Gnostics, they viewed God as only good. So they had the concept that this world of nastiness was created by a false, evil God. Now, some rejected this view. Some believed that it was created out of ignorance by this ignorant God, not an evil God. Other Gnostics viewed that we are emanations from the Father, but separate, so seeking an experience, basically sort of forgetfulness. So seeking to return to the Pleroma, oneness with God, a reverse of the Big Bang, if you will. Now, you see, we have to have these multiple different experiences, whether good or bad, what we regard them as. If we only have one experience, there's no information there to process, to evolve from. So these multiple different experiences are necessary for the movement of, well, for the construction of evolution. Now, when life first begins, it's primitive. It then becomes more aware and starts seeking higher levels of experience. It starts seeking new information. It starts seeking high levels of consciousness. This is the soul's journey, the evolution of self. Now, what separates us from the animals is our level of consciousness. We're able to construct laws. We're able to show higher levels of empathy and compassion. And yes, this can be seen in the animal kingdom in rare circumstances. Being humans, being more unique, we're able to do this much more rapidly. Now, we should in turn become in the image of God, not in the image of the animals. So our animalistic nature is what holds us back, our primitive nature, if you will. So ignorance, not understanding ourselves, not understanding what it means to be human, which is showing empathy, having empathy, compassion and love. The greatest abilities of us being human is empathy. We're able to put ourselves in the shoes of others, in the circumstances of others. We in turn were able to see the suffering of these animals. In turn, we are also able to see the suffering that we would give animals, that we were torturing them as well. So this in turn was why our ancestors would give thanks to the animal, pray to the earth, to the universe, to their gods, to the spirit guides. They understood that they did this in order to survive. Now, this in turn showing empathy, compassion. Now, later on, there would be religions that would reject meat because of this reason. Now, we had in turn sacrificing, ritual sacrificing, not just the animals, but also the humans. Now, we viewed death itself even as God. We viewed life and death gods being laid in the view of good and evil. Now, when we see these circumstances in nature, there's even some elements of beauty to it. The animal that has died, in turn, feeds other life. It in turn feeds the grass that the grass may grow, that other trees may grow. So there's a cycle of life, death, rebirth. Now, what makes us human is to be able to recognize the faults in ourselves. Now, what separates us from the animals is this, is to be able to rationalize, to show empathy, kindness, and love. Now, we can also be the demons and angels. We can be the gods of death, the demons of death, enacting suffering and destruction in nature. We can also be the angels. We can be the gods, the guardians of this planet. We can be the light. We can bring the light. We can transform this planet. We can transform society. So these elements here of compassion, being rational, loving, showing gratitude in what you have, willingness to shape your experience, willingness to shape your life, willingness to make life better. Now, this in turn is wisdom as well. So letting go of the ignorance of the world, letting go of your own self-ignorance, letting go of limited beliefs that no longer serve you now, and embracing new ideals, the true authentic self. Now, when we were animals, we evolved. What made us really human was the ability to recognize the harshness that we can cause and recognize the love in turn that we can also cause, the guilt that we felt for the life of others that we took away in the animal kingdom and in the human kingdom, to recognize this. Now, the Quran will mention that if you kill a human, it's like you've killed humanity. This is because, in a sense, you are humanity. It's how you experience the world. So now you've denied that experience of someone else, and you've, in turn, taken a part of your own humanity. So this idea of compassion, love, this is found in all religions. Now, yes, all religions will contradict because they're written by men, but they have their spiritual elements within. Gnosis, spiritual knowledge. Now, the guilt we felt as humans for taking life, for the loss of life, the loss that we felt when we lost a loved one, or when humans took another life, this in turn developed into religion, into spirituality. So this concept of good and evil, what we recognize that is beyond us, that our true authentic selves call for, the inner goodness, which is our connection to the divine. Now, our ancient ancestors were able to recognize the guilt that they felt. Us as modern humans do as well when we cause suffering. Now, when our ancient ancestors would take a life, they recognized that at times they would torture the animal, that they were taking a life, that they were taking a life of something with a soul within it. This is to recognize of consciousness, of essence of life. Now, what evolved into animal sacrifice and human sacrifice, and even sex rituals, was because we recognized the elements of this physical existence was hunger, death, and reproduction, creation, sex. So our ancestors delved into this, which formed into religion. Now, before the idea of the multiple different gods and goddesses around the world. We worship this planet. We worship the universe. We worship the soul. Now, this worship of the soul would turn into ancestor worship, believing that the ancestors were gods, passing on the messages to the spirit world. Now, through Dreamtime stories, through dreaming, prayer, through psychedelics, we would explore our consciousness, and from here we would ultimately really evolve mentally. We would in turn form society. Now, from all this, the realization of the soul, that everything is mental in form, came from this. The recognize that everything is mental. Now, this in turn is why we see in ancient religions, especially in the Celtic religion, that the soul was in the head. So this is why they would keep the heads of their ancestors. We also see this in, say, headhunting tribal societies. This also in turn believing that the heart contains the soul's essence too, the mind and heart. This in turn is found in Judaism. This in turn was also found in these head-shrunking ritualistic beliefs as well, as they believe when they would eat the heart of the enemy, they would gain a part of their power, part of their soul. But they also kept the heads, as this was also a connection of the soul. So everything being mental, this is what come to that conclusion. Now, from here, this is what led to the Hermetic knowledge, the esoteric knowledge, into philosophy, the idea of the God mind, of consciousness, of this reality being of the mind. So the body being a vessel containing within it the soul. Now, the idea of hell, or better yet, before hell, the idea of a punishment, karma, recognizing that if we do bad things would happen, that there could be, well, there's some sort of punishment or a cause and effect for taking a life. You punch your brother, you're going to get punched back, etc. Our ancestors come up with this concept way before any religion. Now, this is through the recognizing that through taking a life in order that they may live, and that death also brings about life. So you have this duality sense of, again, this goes into reincarnation. But this idea of savagery, guilt, we don't feel this in today's society, not because so much we've transcended above it, it's because most of the world has hidden from it, has denied its existence. It's even when we're eating our meat, we don't question where it comes from, what it's been through, the chemicals they place into the animal, the life it has, how they kill it, etc. This sort of stuff. Now, many of us ignore the nastiness of the world without confronting it, without taking a look within, appreciating, having gratitude for the inner goodness within oneself. Now, in the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says, "Blessed is the man who has suffered and found life." This is one reason I preach this sort of message, as out of darkness does come the greatest light. We can escape ignorance, coming to know ourselves, developing ourselves, progressing ourselves. Now, this also goes into progressing society as a whole, laying down the stepping stones necessary for the continuous movement of expansion of consciousness, so that we can evolve mentally. Now, embracing our inner goodness, we are capable of this. Wherever there's another person, there's an opportunity for kindness. You can be someone else's miracle. Now, happiness is an inside job, so we must explore within. But when we do good actions, we give rise to good actions in others. Now, that last bit is important. The reason why is because the action of monkey see, monkey do. When people continue to see darkness, people enact darkness. But when they see people do good, it encourages them to do good. It inspires them, as the soul yearns this. Deep within, all humans yearn this inner goodness. It's just many of us deny it. And in Gnostic sense, this is why many of us will continue to reincarnate, as they haven't developed the personal relationship with the divine, with their own authentic self. They haven't discovered the authentic self. And so the soul yearns this experience of discovering itself, of experiencing itself. Now, many of the diets that we see today, such as vegetarianism and pescatarianism, and now veganism, these beliefs were inspired by spirituality and religion. The feeling of the need to limit suffering. Now, we see in the ancient past many religions that would limit the eating of meat, that would even reject meat from their diet. We would have say the Cathars and even some ancient Jews that would reject meat but would eat fish, as they viewed fish not having a soul in it or going through less suffering. So these ideas evolved around this idea of limiting suffering. So empathy. So delving into our consciousness. Now I hope you really enjoyed this video. I go into some of these concepts in my book, Gnosis Through the Ages. So if you like this, leave a like, subscribe, leave a suggestion on topics you would like discussed as well. I'm happy to discuss them. So peace and love everyone. I love you all. Connect to one mind and soul. Namaste.